Hello, greetings, salutations.
Morning.
Morning. Good day.
We are having a therapy shot for breakfast. A therapeutic one-on-one conversation with two Black male therapists on their perspectives of being Black fathers and fatherhood from a Black male.
What up, man?
What's going on?
How you doing?
Before we get into intros,
Coming to the stage, sitting right next to me is my favorite Black male therapist of New York City. He's most well known for we're working with Black men, providing therapy for children, being a father of four, being a safe space for other therapists and the community. And he is one of the best looking therapists that I've ever met in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, my man, Kenald Bernard. What up, King?
Appreciate it.
Welcome, man.
Man, I've never been so happy to hear all those good words that you just shared there, right? So it's my turn to introduce the great, the never late, never hate, right? But this guy here, that was my K-banger, preview for you guys. But this guy right here is the relationship guru.
Oh.
If you want to know anything about recovery in a relationship, from infidelity, from just struggles with communication to sex to anything that matters around relationships, this is the guy to go to. He's a licensed therapist, right? And I embellish on that piece because he takes it to another level. He is the first Gottman trained Black male therapist out there. So please shout out to Stanley Cazeau.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, man. I appreciate this, but I'm still here to smoke you though.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
that's
let's go.
my title to decide who smoked who.
Uh-huh.
So I'm acting as referee. And what I love about this opportunity today is I get the beautiful privilege of working with both of you in a personal, professional manner, in the essence of where we can take your visibility as a Black male therapist. And that's something that we don't see within our culture. So being able to be a part of you guys' journey and seeing how you're helping heal our community is such an honor and such a blessing. But what I love most is the camaraderie that you guys have amongst each other.
I don't like him.
You say that now, but
we'll
keep
me.
your secret. Yeah, we'll just keep your secret. So before we dive into the conversation about fatherhood, I just want to know, why is it important to the both of you to have another Black male therapist along next to you for your journey?
For me personally, I've always been seeking that type of relationship with a number of Black male therapists out there. I do believe in strength in numbers. I think we can accomplish a lot more and actually create bigger experiences and get our message even more popular and more valuable by engaging in more camaraderie and more collaborations. Personally speaking, that's why I started the Therapist Link Up, where we will meet as Black therapists, like we were all in a room collaborating, talking, and getting to know each other. That's actually how we met. And he's kind of imposed himself in my life and hasn't left since then. But that's my guy. That's my number one guy. Wherever I go, whatever I can do for him, it's always a yes.
Appreciate that.
Tap that.
We have a rebuttal yet?
Well, as far as having another Black male therapist here, we also have to acknowledge the statistics around that. And we know that we are a rare finding.
4%.
Right? And we're practically almost half of the Black male therapists in New York right now sitting before you. And I think we also have to look at these conversations that we have amongst each other. We do utilize the title collaboration, but we do have a healthy competitive spirit.
Yes.
Right? And we utilize the conversations not to hate on each other or put each other down, but to do what we always say, iron sharpens iron. And we're trying to be sharper than not giving you paper cuts. We're trying to slice you open, right?
Right.
So, and it's our duty to make sure that other Black men out there, even if you're not in the field, to know that we are out here to help support the community.
Yes. And we're accessible. Anybody, any Black therapist can pick up their phone at any time and be able to reach one of us, because we want to be better to who's coming next. And we want to continue to elevate the mission of Black healing throughout society in general. This collaboration, what we're doing now, that's our group chat. We just decided that we're going to have it on a much more public forum.
Okay, it's not fully our group chat because, we like to talk air. But yes, this is the clean version of our group chat.
Yes.
Becoming clean and polished. So, first question for the opponents.
Mm-hmm.
What does being a Black father mean to you?
I'll take that. All right, I'll throw the first punch. All right, so fatherhood, right? Those are the nouns that we know it to be. I think that when it comes to being a father, it is a journey. And the interesting thing about this journey is this journey has no final destination, right? So we are going through all these experiences, these turns, sometimes these pit stops in fatherhood, but there's no true destination. But there is a direction. And what we utilize with that direction, what we utilize as our compass is our values, the people that are important to us, and things that are important to us.
Yeah. I would say for me, fatherhood, Black fatherhood, is us rewriting history. If we're being honest, right? The government has systematically and strategically removed the Black father from the community, from the home, for a number of reasons that I'm sure that we'll get to a lot later, along with some very interesting statistics. So for me, it was kind of starting a foundation, a structure that will allow the next generation to even be better by having healthier home, healthier community. And by us men knowing the importance of being present, not just providers, being present in our family life due to all of the blessings and accolades and healthy behaviors, dialogues, and mental health that's going to be produced from that. So Black fatherhood for me is taking a stand against society, against the media, against the system of building healthier Black families and Black communities in America.
Okay, next question, just answer yes or no. Either of you have your Black father present in your life growing up in the household?
Yes.
My father was home, because presence means something drastically different to
Physically
me now.
present?
Yes.
Okay. What qualities, values, or traits did you take from your father, good or bad? Good and bad, one and one.
I'll start with the most infamous role that fathers has as being a provider. My father has always been the breadwinner in the home, always did the providing in the home. What I feel that was lacking from his end was the nurturing side. And oftentimes that is what we as fathers are not identified to have, that nurturing ability. And it could be because the person or the father is not a nurturer by nature, right? Organically, they don't have the space to provide the nurturing that they're capable of doing, And sometimes it could be a catch-22 in being the provider, not being in the home, which impedes on the time to be a nurturer, which we always talk about. That, we're looking for opportunities to give us more time. We're not even looking for it to give us more money. We're looking for more time with our kids. So those are the two traits that I want to highlight.
I think for me, the good was softness. My dad was soft. And that was a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing for us as children because we can always go to my dad. He wasn't mean. My dad has never put hands on me compared to my mom, right? So in comparison to my mom's demeanor, the softness always gave us someone to go to for protection. Now I'm saying the softness could also be a negative experience because I barely heard my dad's voice within the household. He was present, but his voice was not heard, was not felt. And now that I'm older and I have a family myself, I do wonder what other things that he wasn't able to kind of share, to kind of create, to kind of take the leadership role within the household, and how that could have been different for our childhood and our understanding of what fathers are to represent within the house.
What's interesting is, as you were saying, your father is soft, your voice got softer.
Yeah.
It's almost like you replicate.
Yeah, because now I'm thinking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think being older and being parents has allowed me to understand my parents even more, allowed me to heal my relationship with my parents, as well as Little Mac. Little Mac is the happiest he's ever been in life at this current moment.
How's little Kenald doing?
Oh, KJ, that guy, he's a terror, but I love it. He's really finding himself.
Little Kenald, she means
you're
younger.
You little Kenald.
Oh, you got to be clear on who's the
I know,
Kenald.
I just realized that. I'm so sorry. I forgot you have a little. You have a little KJ.
Right?
How narcissistic of you, though. Name your child right after you.
Yes. It was very intentional. As far as little Kenald, he's relearning and undoing a lot of perspectives that he had. And that was through parenthood. When they say, watch when you become a parent. All right. So little Kenald now is unlearning and relearning a lot of experiences that he had as a child. And we have the saying that, watch when you become a parent and see how it is. And that's what's happening now. As much as I may be critical on my parents when I was growing up, now as being a parent, I could see why they made certain decisions.
Yeah.
I could see why they, carried themselves in certain ways. I could see why they denied me around certain things, right? I could see why they almost or did smack me over my head at times. And now I'm getting that firsthand experience on what's happening. And the irony is that they have softened up. As you say, your dad has softened up.
Oh, yeah.
Was softer.
He is softy now.
My dad is a completely different dad as a grandparent than he was as a dad.
I got jealous seeing the relationship that my dad had with my daughter, because I don't remember him being that dad to me. I cried. I went to my... He loves him more than me. It was great. Yeah. Okay.
So next question. With all of that, do you believe that your profession, since your profession has helped your relationship with your parents and understanding parenthood a bit more from their perspective, how has that affected or helped with being a parent with your profession? And does your profession show up in your parenting?
For me, that's a complete yes. That is a complete yes. A lot of times, in a lot of scenarios, I'm able to think through as a therapist, how should I react to certain things, right? With the behaviors within the household, I am more patient and more compassionate because I understand my children a lot better. Prior to having kids, when I found out that my wife was pregnant, I went on a research binge. I researched everything you could think of. I've read a number of books, and me and my wife, we consistently have a parenting meeting once a week where we talk about what are we seeing within our children? What are the changes that we need to make ourselves? And that allowed us to create a safe word. So whenever I see my wife in an experience and she's not being her best self, and I can tell that she's triggered or she is not in control of her emotions, code word. That means you exit and I walk in because you need a second to yourself. And that's okay. And I also think that when we have other older parents around, they tend to influence our decision making because we're trying to show them that we're in control of our children. And I no longer have that expectation. If my daughter's having a tantrum and anyone is around, I don't care what you think I should do. You can say whatever you want to say. I will still parent the way that I intend to. So I will take her, hold her. Hey, I understand there's a lot of people here and they're all telling you how to address this. And that's okay. I know it's frustrating, but daddy is right here. I am your safe space. Do you need a break right now? Do you want to go to the silent room? Yes, daddy. And I'll walk her in there and we'll sit there and we take a second until she can regulate herself. Children don't know how to regulate themselves. It's the parent's job to help them co-regulate.
You said the silent room. I hope there's no like chains and
I thought of
stuff
Matilda a little
going
bit.
on in there.
The silent room. The calming room.
But I like that, and that's very healthy. I would second that. I mean, hell yeah, when it comes to my profession impacting how I carry myself as a father, I think that it was a God-sent duty, God-sent awakening, having me as a therapist, not only to deal with the fatherhood, but the co-parenting, because that's not easy. And, when it comes to it, and the co-parenting, having the ability to communicate with the mother is important. I have to deal with two mothers. So I have to have the ability to have some insight on how I present and how I receive and how I deliver information with two different people. And that takes a high skill set. And we know just dealing with one person could be a headache, right?
Yes, sir.
And, going into like my profession, not only just being a therapist, but being an advocate and a broker for services, I was able to tap into services for my own children. So just to share, KJ did early intervention because we felt, you know what, I'm not too sure how his speech is. So we knew where to go to explore services around that.
And what's interesting about that, right, is you've overcame the stigma that your child may need extra
Assistance.
help.
That's
And you got it started as
Assistance.
early as possible, which elevates
And
and
it's not
help
a
him
negative.
get there a lot better.
Exactly. It takes that vulnerability
Yes.
that we often are scared to tap into. And, my kid doesn't need any services and things of that nature, but we also have to pay attention. Other people in other communities seek and receive these services as well.
Because it's free
And it's free.
and it's helpful.
And that is where the privilege conversation, we often minimize we have privileges, and we do. As Max said, we're here to stand our ground and break these barriers and go against what the system has done to us.
Amen.
So we came over that mindset. And as a therapist, it allowed me to do that. And part of it was seeing other families that looked like me who needed the services, having the conversations with them about seeking those services. I have to practice what I preach. And that's what I did with that.
My man.
I love that. Okay, the ref is pleased. So the next question I have.
Put your hands on me now.
So when we're
Put his hands on me now.
so when we're cropping it, when it's like this, your hand's not gonna show into the full frame.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah. That's what I'm like. That's all good. You're good.
So my next question is going to be a two-part question based off of something that I heard from both of you. So part one would be, I love how your profession is coming up in your parenting, and you mentioned it showing up with the way that you speak to the co-parent. At the end of the day, you have a co-parent. There's two parents, hopefully, with the child. How does your profession show up when you're attempting to co-parent? And how does that partner take it? Like the term, don't therapize me. Does that come up sometimes while you're trying to co-parent? Like maybe we should try this approach. Or if you're trying to come into handling a situation differently, do you see your partner sometimes shut down thinking that you're handling them like a client instead of a partner? We'll do that one first and then I'll have my second one.
That's critical. And I think that even though it's only 4% of us Black male therapists, I would say probably all of them who are fathers probably go through this. And as a social worker, my wife may say, don't social work me, right? And it kind of, I used to be offended from it. I used to feel like you're not valuing my profession, my expertise. And I may need a hug after this.
May I hold your hand?
Please, right? And this is Black male vulnerability right here. So I had to learn how to reframe and reprocess that response because she was saying something else. She was probably feeling like I was talking to her not as her husband. And that was what she needed, that co-parent, that husband role. And I had to learn how to soften my delivery, reframe it in a way that we both could digest it in a way. And she would also model a response that was much more healthier.
Wow, I'm so glad you've been listening to me.
Yes.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Flag on the play, sir. Opponent one.
Yeah, by the way, this is our relationship coach right here for my wife and I.
He's joking. Yeah, just to piggyback off that, here's the biggest mistake that us therapists tend to make within our household is learning to not coach and intervene during the moment. The preparation needs to happen outside of that moment, right? So if my wife is reacting some kind of way that I may perceive as detrimental, going in there and telling her that's the wrong way or you should try to do it that way is not going to work because she's already in a space where she is flooded and cannot listen to me and cannot hear me. So what I will do is pay attention to the sequence.
Can you break down the flooded piece? Because
Flooded is when your heart, when you've been dealing with a stressful environment or experience, your heart rate surpasses 80 beats a minute. You enter fight, flight, or freeze. Your body has released a stress hormone that makes it radically impossible to listen and process what's happening because now you're just reacting, right? That's where you'll see a parent start yelling at their child and lose more control than the child, right? So, and when those things are happening, you have to understand that they have to work through that, and intervening at that time period without first having an understanding is not going to work. That's just going to elevate the experience and escalate it. So my wife, like I said, we have parenting meeting once a week. I will look at sequence of scenarios and I will then talk about, okay, next time here are the different things that we're going to do. I'm not saying that you're going to do, because even at times I get triggered and I might be escalated myself. But having those conversations, having that accountability, we kind of know exactly how to help each other and how to intervene. A lot of times I'll see her and she's so overwhelmed. I'll go and hug her. I'm like, damn, they killing you, right? She's like, those are your kids. And that's okay. Again, is preparation. So when these moments are happening, you guys are on the same wavelength and on the same page on how to address it. And whatever that I read, whatever information I come up with, we go through it and we agree what that's going to look together. I'm not telling her how to parent. We have decided how we're going to parent.
What I love from your response is the other question that I wanted to ask when it comes to regulating your own emotions. What work do you do individually to regulate your emotion to show up as a partner and a parent when you have to play both?
Yo, here's the truth, right? I thought I was healed till I got parents. These kids push these buttons that I never knew I needed to work through. It was literally holding a mirror and seeing my younger self and how I was raised, how the environment has led me to understand their behavior. I've learned not to challenge my 3-year-old because then I take it personally. I've learned to curate the space where she has her own voice and can make decisions. Every morning, I got to come up with 3 outfits. Which one you want to wear? If I just bring one, I don't want to wear that. Girl, we got to go. I don't want to wear that. Creates more chaos, right? So it's learning her love language, learning what she needs and her need for independence, and cultivating that within that space. I've also learned how I at times need to feel in control of my children, right? Because as Black parents, we're told our children's a reflection of us. And at home, we have to discipline them. So I would raise my voice at times and my daughter would just shrink. And that would hurt me even more. My parents yelled. I was beat my whole life, right? I can understand the need to want to hit your child because you want to make sure that they get it. And having to work through that and having a partner that at times will tell me, hey, do you need a breather? Hey, how about you go to the other room? Hey, what's happening for you, what's showing for you, what do you need in this moment, right? Also helps. I've learned to apologize. Hey, babe, I was sorry. My apologies. Daddy was having a bad day. It's okay, Daddy. You're my best friend. You want a hug?
Stop. My ovaries are
I
screaming.
take my kids out every weekend to do activities that I've never had a chance to do. Because when they're doing it, I become very emotional because I've never had those experiences. I make sure that they have a relationship with their grandparents because it also cultivates that softness and that camaraderie. Whenever I leave home, my dad or my mom's at the house and they're excited. I want to see my grandkids. I want to spend time with my grandkids. My mom walk in, I walk out. She's taking over. Me and my fly, all right, cool. Let's go take a nap.
I think that's something we have to hone in on. A lot of times as parents, we may not want to tap into those resources, right? We feel guilty. We feel shame. Sometimes we just don't want their opinion, so we avoid them.
Yeah.
Right? So tapping into that is important with our grandparents. So that's something that I like. I would add on to when it comes to what do I do for myself to be more self-aware of my emotions is kind of admitting when I may go overboard with the kids, right? And the kids, like you said, you will not know that certain things are in you, but they will find that button and press it, right? And when they press that button, that therapist background license is out the door, right? And you have to go out the door and find it at times. So there's times where you yell, I have to yell at the kids. But one thing I do, just like you said, as adults, we get flooded, the kids get flooded as well.
Extremely.
And I wait till my child calms down to then go back to have a discussion about it. How did you feel, when Daddy yelled about the situation? Do you understand what happened during that time? What can we do better, right? When they're toddlers, you say, is that what do good boys do or good girls do, right? And they begin to have more self-awareness next time. So I might not have to yell next time. I might just have to say, what did we talk about? And we keep it short like that.
Yeah.
But that masculine tone in the home is important as well.
Yes. And that tends to be utilized when it's a safety concern, right? If I see you about to grab a knife, hey, walk away from that. Easily, right? If you're running in the street, I might have to showcase that alphaness because I know at that moment, I just need to keep you safe.
Can I interject as the woman in the room? Sure. I get and understand why you're saying the masculine tone, but can we say the assertive or the authority tone? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I'm a woman. So when I step into motherhood, the male partner might not be there and my child may be trying to run to the street. I still have to throw that same voice, but it's not specific to one gender. Yeah.
The mom voice, the dad voice, right?
And especially when we think about fluid and queer community, there could be two of the same sex parents.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Assertive.
That authoritative tone that you better stop.
I also thought about it, even though I said let's not gender specify it, it made me think of, we have Caribbean mothers, that Caribbean mother face when you're doing something and you just look back and you see and you're like, whatever I'm doing, I need to stop doing right now or else.
And also as fathers is learning to create the space and to elevate the mothers in the home as authority figures as well.
Yes.
So often my wife would say,
yes,
I'm gonna go tell your dad, oh, I need you to talk to your daughter. Babe, you're in control right now. I got your back. We're a team. Whatever you do, I stand behind you. We can talk about it afterwards if I disagree or etc. But these are also your children, and when I'm not around, I expect you to be able to keep them safe. So if you gotta raise your voice, if you gotta be more assertive at that time period, it's okay. That shouldn't be my only role. There's good parent and bad parent. No, we're parents.
Unit.
And that is why it's called co-parenting, right?
Yep.
We're teaming up, we're going there, tackling it together.
What I loved about that response also was the word role came out. So you guys have a lot of roles that you play in your life. You are a therapist. You just mentioned you're answering your phone to others in the community. You're accessible. You are a father of more than one child. You are a partner. You have multiple mothers that you have to balance communication and co-parenting with. how do you balance it all? What is your routine? How do you find balance? How do you incorporate balance? And then how do you get back on track when you fall off balance as Black men?
When it comes to balancing all of those things, it's almost like juggling at a point until you find your rhythm and you begin to find the tools that you do have, right? So for me personally, having a child prior to my marriage with my wife and now having my wife with 3 children with her, 1 prior to, it takes busy, man. Yeah, it takes a while. It takes a while to calibrate, on the onset of the relationship. And each child has its own needs. And the delivery from each parent may be different, right? So I tend to use calendars a lot. I tend to use alarms, and everybody around me knows my alarms. Like, it will say, pick up so-and-so, drop off so-and-so, call like, I try to simplify things for myself. One less thing to think about, because there's so many things that might just slip my mind, right? Creating a space for communication is important, and sometimes it's not effective. I'm not going to lie to you. But at the same time, that you could go back and try to address a situation that may have not went well, right? For fathers out there who have more than one mother out there they have to deal with, and if they got court drama, there is an app called Our Family Wizard. And Our Family Wizard is a way you could communicate around messages, schedules, expenses. Everything is documented, and it's accepted by all states, family court in all states, and could be utilized if you need to go and contend a situation that is not working out for you.
Gotcha.
And it comes with a fee, but when you look at what it does, it could eliminate so much other problems for you.
Almost like therapy.
And the thing about it is, it even has a tone checker in the message.
Wow.
So if you're typing a message and it's a little bit too rough, it would tell you, soften that tone in that message, which could help you as a parent.
Nice.
So tapping into these things that I didn't even know about, I learned that the hard way around Our Family Wizard, but then I put it forward to other people, and it's been helpful for me, and it's been helpful for the people that I shared it with.
I love your response. I love it, right? Because it's very accurate and it's very practical.
And personal.
Oh, it shows. Right. And I just want to autocorrect something you said, right? It's not if you have multiple mothers that you're dealing with, but that you're co-parenting with.
Oh,
right? Let's not do dealing with. I don't like the kind of connotation of that.
I think my emotions, the personal emotions out there,
So I'm here.
The little regulation
and that's why you need a therapist by there to pull you up a little bit.
Well, if I could also interject, maybe it's not just having a therapist, it's also having other Black fathers
that you could talk to
and trust based on the way that you guys are operating.
Yeah. I would say the question was, what's the...
Like, how your therapy helps you co-parent with your mother's imbalance.
Yeah,
balance.
How do you find your balance? And here's the truth: you cannot parent from an empty cup. You cannot parent from an empty cup. You cannot parent from an empty cup. I say I am an individual first, a husband second, and a father third. Within that priority, I got to take care of myself first before I can take care of anyone. I need to make sure that my mental health, my physical health, my emotional wealth is at its capacity and at its best so I can be present for my wife and for my kids. Husband second, because at the end of the day, I want to provide a 2-parent household that is loving, that has the proper environment to raise children in. It doesn't make sense that I'm arguing with my wife every day about the children or about our relationship, which then allowing them to see this negative stereotype of a relationship where it's all conflict and it's escalations and they're not safe and they're embodying everything that's being said. So it's very important to curate the space for a healthy relationship because a two-parent household has a lot of benefits to their child's emotional intelligence, IQ, behaviors, mindset, and etc. Third, father, right? If I take care of myself, if the home and the relationship is thriving, then it's easy to be a father. Me and my wife, we would be more in sync. We would be more collaborative. There's less ego. There's less tension that's causing miscommunication to the point that our tone might need to be checked. If me and my wife were in alignment, we're loving each other, it's easy to love onto the kids. And it also helps the kids feel more love and appreciated and returning that to the parents and to the behaviors. A child's behavior is their way of acting out. If there's a lot of tantrums, if they're not following through, if they're not listening, they're acting out emotions that they're experiencing within the household, right? And I need to stress this to parents. The reason why your child is so well behaved with others, because they don't feel safe being themselves around people that they're not comfortable with. Around their parents within their safe zones, they showcase their emotions. And a lot of times they don't have the language to label it, so it comes through as destructive behaviors. But that's okay. You got to welcome that. Yes, have that tantrum because that tells me all day there's things you wanted to talk about and to express, but you couldn't because you didn't have someone to go to do that, right? So by having those mindset along with my wife, like, hey, babe, I know you're a mom, but we need to prioritize our relationship primarily before we can be the great parents that we want to be.
So it sounds like you need to have that strong connection with that co-parent. So in having and investing in that strong connection with that co-parent, be it you're with them or not, ensuring that there is a playing field, that you guys are a unit, how do you continue to then have that strong connection with your child as they're developing and starting to learn and understand their emotions? Because they may not understand what it is. So how do you, and this may be opponent number one first, you got the oldest child out of the group. How do you grow with your child and as you're growing individually?
Well, as far as keeping a connection with the child, it starts from birth, right? And when you do studying on development, there's the trust versus mistrust. And that's the first thing, the first stage that the kids go through. And in that time, that's when that nurturing piece is like, do I feel safe around this person who's a nurturer? They may not speak to you, but they may do some crying or whatever they may do to kind of show you that they are having some difficulty with that trust piece, right? But now as they're growing up, what I do now, I think my oldest child didn't have the benefit of it, but now my youngest children do, is that I utilize a feelings chart. And the feelings chart allows them to simply say how they are feeling. Like you said, label it. I'm having a tantrum. Okay, I see that something's happening with you. Can we look at this feelings chart to see how you really feel around it? How are you going to utilize it with a 2-year-old, 3-year-old? There's pictures of how that feelings looks and they could point at it. When my son gets mad and starts throwing things, he doesn't say anything besides point to it and says, and I'm looking at it, I'm mad, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated. That's the picture he points at. And that allows us to have a connection. Now I'm working through it versus me getting mad on top of his tantrum, right? It softens me up as well.
That is so gaslighting, right? Mm-hmm. Your child's having a tantrum and you're having a tantrum towards your child for having a tantrum.
Exactly.
That's gaslighting.
Right? And it feels like we're going at the one-on-one. We're going one-on-one with the child.
You feel challenged.
Exactly.
Now it's personal.
Yep. Now it's personal, right? And it takes away that. It allows us to focus on the problem and not the person.
Ooh.
Right? What is the problem? What's going on? And it's not, hey, we're going to fix this, but how can we now express this differently? You're feeling mad. What is something else you can do?
And you can acknowledge it. I understand that right now you're feeling upset about what's going on. I understand. If I was in your place at your age, I would feel the exact same way, and I may react the exact same way, and that's okay.
That's how the teenager works. That's the teenager. Because I was telling people before.
I disagree with that.
You could have a gun to the teenager's head. They still not going to do what you want them to do unless you get that connection with them. My teenage daughter, who's 15 now, I'm not using the same approach with the 2 or 3-year-old with her. Now I can have more verbal discussion with her around certain things and showing those skill sets of validation around that and having her express herself.
No. It still works with the younger child. Whether or not they can comprehend what you're saying, they're experiencing you. Yeah. They see that your tone is softer, your heart rate is lower. That allows them to co-regulate from you because you're safe and I'm touching you, right? So my heart rate is going. My heart rate.
Noted. This is the second time.
My heart rate is going to match your heart rate, right? Again, like during a tantrum or etc.
And what do we call that?
What?
A safe space.
Correct.
Right.
You have to be able to acknowledge and validate your child's experience because you're also modeling how to use the skill sets and how to verbalize what's happening for them.
You know, and as you're saying that, I'm thinking about when we do have a mishap, let's call it a mishap in communication with our co-parent, we will go and try to repair the situation behind closed doors. You sometimes will benefit from demonstrating how did we conflict resolution this situation in front of the child.
I'm stealing that.
I was like, no,
I'm stealing that.
my ovaries are going to save that
excellent.
one.
Right?
That was
so
excellent.
We have to model that as well.
Yeah.
And that is important for them to then practice. And they will practice that when they're in school, home, or wherever.
Yeah. And after you call in a group hug or now you go and apologize to the children for raising your voice on mommy. Right? Because when they're witnessing...
There's a lot of times a mommy's raising his own.
Vice versa, right? Because a lot of time when you lose control and have that mishap in front of the kids, they also are feeling for that partner that's receiving that, and it's impacting them. So right after repairing between the couple, let's also repair within the family aspect, right? For me, just your question is, on average, parents only spend 35 minutes with their children face to face when it doesn't involve a task. Them being fully and mindfully present.
35 minutes, how often?
Per day. If you think about it, we wake up, we get ready, we drop them off to daycare or school, we pick them up, we're doing dinner, we're doing homework, then they go to bed, right? That one-on-one time is definitely missing. What I've done is I've left my 9 to 5. I became an entrepreneur. I started working for myself. I was able to curate a schedule that allowed me to spend time with them. Because I remember being at work and my wife calling me saying, she said, Dada. And I was there to witness that. I went into the bathroom and I cried. Because I was like, I will not be missing milestones because of work. That was my last week at work. So again, it's curating the space to be present. Because a lot of times my daughter will wake up, Daddy, I don't want to go to school today. Can we just stay home? And I have the power to do that because I'm in charge of my schedule, right? So again, I've learned to create more time being present with my children, putting my cell phone away, having family time, having dinner time. We actually sit at the table together, phones away, and we talk and we check in, right? Bath time, which I enjoy. I started doing hair, right? In the morning time. Come on.
You want to do my hair now?
No.
Oh, okay.
I will do hair. I'll get them dressed. I drop them off to daycare, or sometimes I'll show up and take my daughter out so we can go get our nails done. Okay. Or we'll go get ice cream because she's 3 years old now. Wherever I go, she want to go. If my shoes are on, Daddy, I'm coming. Sure, baby, let's go.
Can I say one little joke that people don't know?
What?
So Mac put on this dope event for Valentine's Day, and we wanted to give the couples a little spicy gift. We made it a little boo-boo, went into a little romantic depot, and literally got stopped at the door like, the children can't come in here. And we were like, what? Oh, right. Yeah. That does kind of make a lot of sense. So yes, I can validate that she does want to go everywhere and didn't see anything wrong with,
Yeah.
cute things being on display.
And just to drive home this one major point is that children learn empathy from the father, not the mother. When a child is born, it takes them around 6 months to realize that their mom's body is separate from their own. So the child tends to over-identify with mom because she carried you for 9 months, right? So you're used to being a part of them. That's why they say dada first, because dada is the first person that they are recognizing not being part of them. That's why dada comes first and not mama, right?
Well, I don't care what statistics say. I just say dada is the best, and that's why they say it first.
Okay. Again, right.
Opponent 2, you're losing a point here.
So that's why it's important for the father to be emotionally intelligent, because the child is learning their social clues and their emotional clues a lot more from dad, because it's not expected. From mom, that role is expected and it's kind of given, so they're not seeing how important it is. So being able to apologize in front of the child to the other parent is very important, because that's how they're learning that empathy. Being able to acknowledge the child's emotion in that moment and create that safe space for them, allow them to recognize that empathy and put it into practice.
There's something you often tell me and remind me about is about when after a couple has a child, what happens to them?
It has been reported that couples that transition to being first-time parents report a 67% lower relationship satisfaction.
Right.
And here's why. They're prioritizing being parents and not a couple.
Voila.
Right. We're not sleeping, so it's easy to argue. I'm feeling my way, you are feeling your way. Hey, again, for mom, there's the invisible load, the things that are not present, that we can't see, that they're thinking through. Groceries, clothes, diapers, this and that, breastfeeding, supply. Like, a mom is experiencing a lot. And for men, right, we also need to know that mom sex drive will drop for the first 3 years, especially if they're breastfeeding. So that expectation now, you got to be sexual when I've been overly touched and overwhelmed all day and I haven't had a break. That's why chore play is very important for men. What can you take off mom's table? Secondly, fellas, you want to have more sex at home? You need to do 2 things. The number one.
I'll see if I validate this one. Go ahead.
The Viagra for women is being listened to. Are you listening to her? Create a space where she feels heard, seen, and understood. And she'll always be more than willing to meet your sexual needs because you're meeting her emotional needs. The second thing is, if the child is around, she's in mom mode. If the child is around, she's in mom mode. If you want your woman to be more sexual and more free, remove the child from the home. Take the child to grandma. Take the child to a sibling somewhere that's safe. That's where you get your girl back. That's where you get your girl back. That's where she's free. No child is going to hear them. Hold on. Right. She's not expecting the baby to wake up at any point and crying. Now she got to leave the space and transition of being mom, because whenever the child is around, her mind is on that child. She's in mom mode. To get your lady back, you got to remove her out of mom mode. Take her on vacation without the kids. Take her to brunch, and when she comes back, you guys have 2 hours till the kids are returned.
I want to hear the mom part now.
Have a babysitter available. Now, for the ladies.
Only 2.
Only 2. If you want your man to be more loving, more present, and more attuned to your needs, one of the biggest things that you need to do is to acknowledge him as a father. Too often men are hearing about the things that they're not doing when they feel like they're doing a million things. Hey, thank you for putting them to bed tonight. Thank you for giving them a bath. You're an amazing father. Thank you for being a provider. Right? So that's very important, because men need to hear that. Second thing, very simple. When they come home, beat them to the door in terms of the children. When I walk home, my daughters are excited to see me. Daddy's home. we also need to create that space for the men. When they enter the home, be excited to see them. Hey, babe. Oh, my God, you're home. Jump on them, hug them, kiss them. That's going to make them feel welcome. That's going to make them feel wanted and validated. And therefore, will have more energy and more than willing to be present for that family because they're being seen and acknowledged as men and as fathers.
I want to add, and those were some great tips that you shared there.
Thank you, man.
Right?
Thank you.
You missed a couple things, but it's
yeah.
all right, bro.
Okay.
No, but
what I missed?
No, it was good, and I want to just add. I just want to add.
If we're adding to one, you have to add to the other.
Okay. So he's added and autocorrect and all sorts of stuff, right? But one thing I want to bring up is that it's been like this low discussion around postpartum for men.
Yes.
And we as fathers, after the birth is where we can experience the postpartum. And it often happens at least 3 months after the delivery of the child, right? And then we're having struggles in finding our identity, especially first-time fathers. Our identity becomes confusing to us. And now that role and struggle that we have in the communication with our partner who is not making us the priority anymore and vice versa, that begins to take a toll on us emotionally and mentally. And they say that even our hormones change
during pregnancy, yes.
During the pregnancy and post-pregnancy.
Correct.
You're going to have less testosterone, after having the child. So all of those things take effect during, this post-delivery aspect in our life. And we have to make sure that we're doing a self-evaluation around that and we're seeking support proactively as a preventive level versus waiting for a crisis to happen to then seek help.
Yeah. And I think the biggest reason for that is a mom that's carried a child for 9 months and now the child is here in the world. The mom doesn't have much control of the safety for that child. So there tends to be a lot of anxiety around that. And the mom feeling like I got to do every single thing to care for that child. And a lot of times the father's trying to be involved, trying to be present and trying to help. But the anxiety that the mom is experiencing is not allowing space for that. Like if the child is crying for 5 minutes, mom will intervene. My wife would be known to that. I'm like, babe,
for people
allow me to work through that.
Let me tell you this. Sometimes it's not just the mom who's not allowing us, right? I might have family over and one of the children may have a poopy diaper. They're calling my wife while I am right there.
That's cultural.
Right? And it's beyond cultural. It's almost uniform out here.
Good point.
Right? It's almost uniform that they'll call the mom.
Yeah.
I will go and drop off my kids and people know I'm working from home and they know my wife works in the city. They're calling the mom if there's a issue at school where I told you I am here and available.
Yeah.
Why are you not calling me? Right? And that could take a toll on our identity as a father, especially a Black father.
Yeah. And to also add in, your village can also be very detrimental to a woman's postpartum. So part of the work that I've done with my wife is that when family members are coming to see the child or coming around, I've meet them at the door and have certain boundaries. Do not speak to the state of our home. We just had a child. It's not going to be clean, especially my mom. Right? It's not happening. Number 2, keep your opinions to yourself on how we're raising our children. We're learning. We will find our way. What you used to do for your kids, we don't need to hear that. 3rd, don't tell my wife how to be a mother. Because no man's going to tell me how to be a father, right? Us men, we learn. Yo, mind my business. Yeah, do your thing. But with other mothers, they want to intervene and they want to help.
That could be not helpful as well when we expect the person to mind their business and not do a thing. It's how we present it.
If it's asked,
right? It's how it's presented. If it's
asked, if I want your opinion on something, I will ask you. But don't just enter the home like, well, you have to breastfeed.
Or I could impose, not impose.
You
cannot
could
do
inquire,
this.
can I share?
Hey, can I share?
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
I noticed something, and this is something that I do. Like, oftentimes.
Yes. The main reason that moms suffer from postpartum depression and anxiety is because they feel like they're not a good moms. And they feel like they're not a good moms.
How about the fathers?
Hold on, man. Can
I want us to talk and drill for the
My
black
man is here for the
fathers.
men, okay?
I'm here because we talk about the moms all the time.
I hear you.
And I feel this is what happens.
Let me finish my point.
Just here
to the
off to the mom side.
Yes.
We gotta get that black father's part there.
Yes, but again,
Opponent has had enough.
right? I hear that, but as fathers also, we need to make sure that the home is viable for the mother as well, because they play such a pivotal part into the children's lives. So if they're not taken care of and their mental health is not being prioritized, we feel the burden of that leads to the miscommunication and etc. Right? So again, right, the biggest reason for depression and anxiety is other mothers telling them how to be mothers. And that starts as early as the delivery room with the nurses, right? Be very mindful of how the nurses are talking to the mothers in that space, because that may start the thinking that I can't do it. Now, for the fathers, right, what most people don't know is if you're in conflict with the mother, the child withdraws from the father and goes to the mom because she's the source of survival for that child. Right? So it's very important to have a healthy relationship that allows the father to be present. And the second reason why most fathers' postpartum experience tends to be negative is because they don't feel that they are being respected in that fatherly role. So if you cannot communicate with your partner, if you're not in a good space where y'all could talk, where y'all could do the work, when y'all can strategize, both partners will feel all of these negative experiences. That's why the relationship is very important, primarily.
We've been talking a lot about intact families, mom and dad in the house.
Talk about it.
Now, a lot of fathers, right? Because they say about 60% in the black community, 60% of the households are single parent households, right? So there's a lot of fathers who are co-parenting from different households.
Yes.
So that communication, at times, there is already a barrier there. There's tension there. Some people can't even speak to the parent. They speak to the child to send a message to the parent.
That's crazy.
Right? And that's what it is.
It's not crazy.
That's
That is
reality.
It's reality. That's
I'm
what
saying
it is.
crazy. Like, I can't picture myself having to do
It's
that.
disappointing to hear.
It's a disappointing reality.
It's disappointing to hear, but this is what happens. And when you say that, if the father may have an issue with the mom in front of the child will more gravitate to the mom because they're looking at survival. And just to share like a situation where I had in the earlier phase of the co-parenting with my oldest child's mother, was they have to do something when it comes to custody visitation where they do a court-ordered investigation. And that's where they interview each parent and the child separately. They do assessments of the home and things of that nature. And they will ask the child, who doesn't know any better, who do you want to stay with?
Don't put the child in.
And they put the children in this pressured state. And what happens is oftentimes parents will coach their child to respond to that question.
Or whoever the worker is at that time can over-identify.
Hold on, let me reclaim my time. We like in the government right here. We got to reclaim my time, right? So that could take, and that's where we often talk about like physical neglect, but that's emotional neglect when you're doing that to the child. Yeah. That's emotional neglect. You're putting them in a place. Emotional abuse. And the way that my child responded to that question was, she didn't truly answer it to who she wants to go to. She said, I wish my parents lived in the same building. Each of them was on a different floor.
Jesus.
Right? Imagine a child saying that. Wow. Right? And it's like they have to now utilize some thinking that another child who has an intact family doesn't have to deal with. just the separation alone. And as a father, having to deal with it is like, we do organically. We say, all right, let the child go to mom and I'll go. And that's what happened to me. I'll go with the other every other weekend. Mind you, I had a 50-50 split, but knowing that it was going to put a toll on my child, I went with that. Big mistake, fathers. Don't go for that. I would say go for 50-50 as much as you can, because it's hard to turn away from it. It's hard to get more time. It's easy to give up time, but it's hard to get it back. But it's important that you have that strong relationship with your child in between time. A lot of mothers, they speak down on fathers in those situations. They call you Disney dad. Because now you're looking at it every other weekend or every whatever days, you're trying to put as much enjoyment in there for the child as you trying to make up for that time.
You're overcompensating.
You're overcompensating for it.
For that guilt.
And it's sometimes it's for guilt, and sometimes it's just for, I want to have an experience that will be just like fulfilling for the child.
Referee's going to tap in really quickly. What about the ones that do only, like, there's a mother in a situation who needs assistance and asking the other parent for help, and they're putting their priorities first. I have to do this, I have to do that, thinking provider aspect. I have to work. The mother is asking for help because they have a priority for their career, their opportunity. How do you combat that with the fathers who are giving that type of response to the mothers?
That's common, especially in intact families. It's common that we do that. Look, I got to work. Look, I got to do this. And it's like you're devaluing your role, personally devaluing your role as a father and how important it is. And that's where you have to do the self-evaluation. That's where it comes, all right, maybe in that moment where the parent, the other parent needed that support, you didn't provide it, and they had to kind of figure it out on their own. How do I now bring it up to my partner? Hey, look, I know last time you had to work and things like that. What is a better way that we could communicate that, so we could prevent those kind of situations from happening in the future? That's where we begin to do some preventive things versus reactive around it.
Yeah, and even if we go back to the co-parenting, right? What a lot of women are saying is that there's a lot of men that don't want to be fathers, right? That are holiday fathers. They come around, they take a photo just to be validated by social media or to their friends that they are being fathers. I know a number of women that have agreements with the father that they are co-parenting, and at the last minute they would just change their mind, or something came up, and now the break that the primary parent was in need of is no longer present. Right? If we're being honest, we also need to think through the sacrifices of being the primary parent when co-parenting, right? You're always thinking of that child. You're always thinking of your schedule around that child. You're saying no to events. You're saying no to social gatherings. There's a sense of freedom that you lose as well, right? So it's on both sides. And I'm not sure what the statistic is, but I think the overall message is to be very mindful of who you choose to have children with. With my wife, I've said early on, I just want a little girl that looks just like you with your attitude. I was sold on my wife because I know she'll be an exceptional partner, but even a better mother. And that was important to me because I wanted a household where my children are seen, are prioritized, are loved, but also being able to keep me accountable, to check me when I need to be checked as a father. We've even said, if me and you don't figure it out, we ain't going nowhere. You take this bedroom, I got this bedroom, we're going to make this work for the children.
That's a flex right there. Right? You got multiple bedrooms out there.
But I think when you have kids, they have a dependence on you to survive and to excel. Right. And you chose to bring them into this world. And those are your responsibilities. So you owe it to them to see it through. Right. So if you got to pause on certain things in your stratosphere, you have to do that. Right. I've worked less to be more present. I travel less to be more present. I've moved away from certain friendships from certain male friendships because I felt that one, my children are not safe around you. Two, you need to do a better job as a father yourself. And three, I'm not creating the space for that. My time is valuable. My time is important. And if it takes me away from my kids and my family structure, it better be worth it.
So speaking of time, we're sadly running out of time. I could listen to you two speak all day because I'm like, yes, when these ovaries are ready, baby, you better listen to this episode.
And they are ready.
So I hope you listen to this episode because they're not going to be ready if you ain't listen to this episode. Okay, now.
Do your thing.
I want you guys to rank with these 4 to 5 words because I don't know if I counted them in my head. So it's either 4 or 5 words. Rank them in importance in being a father. Protector, provider, presence, nurture.
We'll figure it out. And actually, I'd like for us to collaborate on that list. Right? I think one is presence.
Forward.
So I would say the number one thing is being present, right? Because if you're not around, if you're not being seen, if you're not being felt.
No, don't collaborate. Do your own.
Okay.
Do your own.
For me, I would go presence, right? Because your presence is making them feel, your presence is being felt, right? And I think that's important. If you're present, you're noticing things, they're seeing you, you're building that relationship and that reliance on dad. 2 is nurturer. You can make $1 billion, but you don't have the nurture or the patience to be a father, right? How many rich kids do we know that want nothing to do with their family?
Right?
I'll
take your money.
Let me say my first 2. I feel presence is important. And because, the funny thing about Black fathers that people don't talk about is, it's not even funny, but this is like some serious stuff here. We are the most engaged fathers.
100%.
Right? So statistics say that we are the most engaged fathers. For those who are in their child's lives, we are the most engaged. That means that we're actively doing things for the child, getting them ready, taking them to school, taking them to programs, activities. We are the most engaged out of all other races.
I'll tell you
fatherhood.
why, right? The reason why is because in most cases in a 2-parent household, both parents have to work financially to make sure that the family is taken care of, right? So there's not a stay-at-home parent. So therefore, the parental task tends to be more equally divided. With rich families, usually one person is focused on being the provider solely, and the other parent tends to take on more of the household and their primary children-based task. So that's why for us, we're more involved.
So present is my number 1. Present is my number 1. Number 2, provider.
I disagree with you.
That's why you got your list.
And y'all still got to do 3 and 4.
I think provider. And,
why?
I feel that provider is number 2 is more so as part of that ego. As much as we want to at times kind of put the ego down and say it's hurtful, harmful, but that's what the ego needs. Okay. The ego needs to know, like, all right, I am doing something that is providing for my family as men, right? We often need that, right? That's why we say, hey, look, I'm going to work before I do the nurturing for some reason, because we want to make sure that we're a provider.
What's 3?
My 3rd is nurturing.
Okay. 4?
Yeah, because I think it could be very subjective what protection looks like.
Okay.
Right? So, I mean, like, I don't worry about protection. Like, I'm pretty tall, strong guy. Like, what and have access to things to make sure my family is straight.
So you're saying that being a provider can also be you being a protector. Being a nurturer, some of it, you being a protector as well.
Because even being present falls into a little bit is related to nurturing, right? And some of the things have some.
Oh, you could be present,
overlapping,
and not a nurturer.
Yeah,
watching TV all day.
It's not congruent, but it has some overlap. That's what I'm trying to say.
So for me, I would say 1 is presence, 2 is nurturer. I'm gonna go 3 with provider because being a provider can afford me certain protection for my children. So protector will be last, right? Because by being present and a nurturer, the home protection is present, the emotional protection and the safety is there. And provider, I would say last because I've actually decreased my work hours so I can be present because I find that to be more valuable than making more money, right? And yeah, and that also helps with the relationship aspect. If I'm more present, my wife feels less burdened, less overwhelmed. That allows her to be a better mother, a better partner, and etc. Yeah.
I know you guys didn't ask me, but I'm going to answer. And the reason why I'm going to answer is another thing that's very beautiful that I don't share a lot about with working with the two of you being Black fathers and being Black providers is I don't have a Black father. I have a white father. And I have a Black mother. And with having that dynamic, not to say, one is better than the other. I'm never saying that. That's not what I'm saying with this piece. What I can reflect back on with the way I was raised and the circumstances on which I was raised. My father got injured at work when I was a baby. So he was present in the house. So my mom went back to work and was the provider. And my father was present with me in my early development. So now my structure, my schedule, my rewards came from my father. But having that connection also with my father. So presence for me. And that's what I see in my relationships. I need quality time and I need your presence. Are you seeing? Are you listening to me? Am I being heard and seen? I need that. And when it comes to that providing aspect, both of my parents did it. So I watched my mother be out of the home. I watched my mother not be there on Christmas because she got double pay being in the hospital. So we had a structure with, I open one gift with mom in the morning. We wait for mom to come home, and that's how we open our gifts together. Parenting. So I watched that happen. But what's interesting about you guys putting protection last, I would put the same last. I am looking for protection with my partner in the sense of, am I safe across the board? Am I emotionally safe with you? Am I physically safe with you? Am I sexually safe with you? Am I mentally safe with you? And that protection piece with the parent, my father had this joke. He's a gardener. He works for the Department of Agriculture. So it's funny that he has that green thumb. I have a different green thumb. And he told my male friends when I was in high school, when she was 5, she was carrying cement blocks and sandbags because I was always helping him tend to the garden. Okay, that's why. Come against me if you want to. But one thing he said was, I'm not going to be with my daughter all the time. And there's so many other people out there. And as a parent and a male parent, of course, that's my concern. Is she safe, smart, and strong enough to protect herself? Because I can't always be there. And she's also not going to tell me everything she's been through and what she's coming across. So I want to ensure I instill those skills, those tools, that knowledge in her to be able to move in that way. So if y'all are afraid of me, it's because I have a white daddy who taught me how to be a smart Black woman. Okay?
Yes. And on behalf of myself, on behalf of Kenald, on behalf of Catherine, on behalf of BlackMenCryToo, on behalf of 321, on behalf of Therapy is for Everyone, we want to universally celebrate all fathers of all walks of life and tell you guys thank you for everything that you're doing today, everything you've done in the past, and everything you're doing in the future for your children, for our children, for the community, and for the world. We celebrate you 100%. Happy Father's Day.
And that's a wrap.